The country of Palau consists of 8 principal islands and more than 250 smaller ones, and is located in the western extremities of the Pacific Ocean. Known for its unique flora and fauna, Palau can be considered a tropical, untouched paradise. However, behind the beautiful islands and all the tourist attractions, there is a darker, much deeper reality. The islands are sinking. It's been happening for years. I'm talking about global warming. Global warming, also known as climate change, is the warming to the Earth's climate as a whole and is caused by many things, mostly human related. According to scientists from the National Geographic, there are a few things we need to know when it comes to climate change before anything else. Firstly, the world is getting warmer. Throughout the year, the temperature goes up and down several times a day, but over the past half century, the Earth's surface temperature has increased tremendously. Each year sets a new record for the hottest recorded average global surface temperature. Most of this is because of us. Carbon dioxide is one of the main causes for warming climate, and we have released over half of the carbon dioxide currently in the atmosphere. The Earth on its own has a balancing cycle. We disrupt that cycle. Deforestation alone, keeping in mind that vegetation naturally absorbs carbon dioxide, has released 1/3 of the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. And despite all the debate that has been occurring in recent years, the number of scientists that say we are the cause far outweigh the few in denial. Because of all this change of climate, one of the main effects is that ice is melting at a much faster rate. When I say ice, I don't mean the ice in your glass of water. The Arctic is melting. The ice sheets that cover Antarctica and Greenland hold enough ice to raise the sea level more than 200 feet. A rise in 20 to 30 feet would be enough to swamp coastal cities. Another major effect of change in climate is weather. The amount of climate-related disasters has more than tripled since the 1980s. Climate change doesn't cause the disaster, but it does make it much more likely and intense. High-category disasters that should only be occurring 1 in every 500 years have now become a 1 in every 40 years event, and the rate is steadily climbing. It isn't only the sea levels being affected by climate change. Species of all kinds, plants and animals, are being affected as well. With the environment changing, species that can't adapt to the rapid change are becoming endangered or are now extinct. Plants and animals that have been around for centuries are now lost in history. When looking at this chart of species extinctions since the 1800s, there is a small rise in the 1920s, but this increases dramatically in the 1980s and is expected to continue rising. For most people, climate change feels like an issue that is several generations or even a lifetime away. For the small, low-lying islands like Palau, on the other hand, it is a very urgent issue.
Sea level rise is already destroying our low-lying atolls, our crops, our homeland.
The chemistry of the ocean is changing.
Weather patterns here are getting pretty crazy. Palau rarely even saw typhoons at all, but in just 2 years, 2 super typhoons have hit.
And it just decimated the reefs on the east side. What used to be some of the most pristine and spectacular reefs have just gone.
People have this apathetic feeling that we'll worry about it when the time comes, but actually it's already too late to just talk about it.
Their population of 20,000 is being threatened by rising sea levels and ultimately, climate change. William Bram of PBS wrote, Palau's coasts are being eroded, its local farmlands tainted by seawater, and its valuable reefs threatened. Due to climate change, the seawater in shallow areas is warming, which causes coral bleaching. Coral bleaching occurs when water is too warm and causes the coral to expel the algae living in their tissues. This causes the corals to turn white. This doesn't mean they're dead, but the corals are put under a lot of stress and are now subject to mortality. On top of this, marine life that depend on the coral reefs surrounding Palau begin to suffer as well. Coral reefs that go through bleaching and have not died of starvation may recover when waters cool during winter, but their reproductive capacity is reduced, leading to long-term damage. According to the World Watch Institute, 19% of the world's coral reefs are dead. At the moment, Palu's reefs are safe, to a degree. There has been some damage, but the reefs still live, though I can't help but wonder, for how much longer? Palu's way of life is being heavily affected by all this change. Tourists come from all around the world to see their beaches and the reef, to experience their rich culture and to see the different types of life that inhabit the chain of islands. And all of this is quickly disappearing. With the rise in sea levels, government officials now have to buy land elsewhere to move their citizens.
We learned typhoons were rare in Palau, but now with the rising sea temperatures around them from climate change, they are now a breeding ground for unpredictable super typhoons.
Something is not right. Where we had that 49 years without a single typhoon, and then all of a sudden, boom, boom.
They are now trying to move inland to avoid the next typhoon or storm surge.
We are discussing the housing area to move to the higher ground. That's what we can do right now.
Along with sea levels now reaching further inland, Palu's fresh water and vegetation is also being decimated. Paluans now have to gather rainwater as a source of drinking water, which could prove to be dangerous as Palu's rain season lasts from April to December, leaving them struggling for fresh water during the other 4 months, if they do not experience a drought. Paluans now also have to move their farming further inland to find non-salt contaminated dirt, something which is proving to be difficult as the dirt further inland is not suitable for farming.
Food security is another serious issue for Palauans, especially for their staples, taro and fish.
Taro is staple food for many islands. Not just the staple food, but insurance food. Taro, you plant taro, and they stay there for years and years and years.
But recently, saltwater rise, which has damaged practically majority of the taro patches around the island.
Palau has implemented several programs and laws to help protect their beaches and do their part when it comes to fighting back against global warming. Palau became the second country in the world to ratify the Paris Agreement in 2016, which has brought many nations together in the effort to slow global warming and take whatever necessary actions needed to do so, as well as to strengthen global response to climate change. Palau has also been doing many things locally to fight back against climate change. One such thing is the Green Energy Micronesia Initiative. The GEM initiative's goal is to generate 20% of power from renewable energy and achieve 30% energy efficiency by the year 2020. To help achieve this goal, Palau has installed solar panels on several national buildings, recycling centers, and energy offices, as well as distributed around 20,000 compact fluorescent lights. Former President Tory Byong has believed that one of the solutions to climate change was to transition from the use of fossil fuel, which has a finite energy source, to renewable energy from the sun, wind, and other sources. Along with this, Palau joined with several other Pacific islands in the Micronesia Challenge, which is to conserve 30% of nearshore coastal waters and 20% of forest land by 2020. Despite all their amazing advances, they cannot do this alone. To save Palau and other islands, we need to come together, not just as a nation, but as the inhabitants of our one world. There's nothing more needed to be discussed. This is happening, whether we like it or not. And it's about time to decide. Are we just going to let this happen? Or are we going to do something about it? Palau is doing something. It's about time we catch up and join them.